You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr.D and Mahdi.
I mean, it's just getting worse. I mean, where's the sensory play? Where's the touching dirt? Where's the playing outside? Where's the moving around? I mean, as humans, we've grown to know, especially in the fitness industry, that movement is king. And we're teaching kids from such a young age now, not even to move around the classroom, but to sit in a chair and look at a screen.
Homeschooling has been in existence for a long time, where parents have chosen to homeschool their kids because they didn't want them to immerse with the mainstream students. They chose to teach their kids at school, and it worked for them. Why is it not working for us? And it worked for those parents that chose homeschooling. That's why I'm saying.
I have second graders that right now, and to be honest, they go in and out by themselves. They change their background screens and they do everything, they blur. And then I have kids that are after break, Miss, the other girls are on the other chat. And I'm like, what chat are you talking about? They're like, we're going to go get them. And they hop around and go get them and bring them to the right chat.
Modern education is designed to teach people the basic skills to get a job, not to teach people to love to learn and not to want to learn for the sake of learning. Being on a screen and seeing behaviors and actions from the chest up doesn't give them the full understanding of micro behaviors. There's body language, voice inflections and whatnot. All those things and how we communicate as human beings, I don't think that all that translated through a screen.
All this and more in today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Project. And today we are joined by Dr. Theodore Kruse and Miss Sommer Nasrallah, both of whom, one is a virtual teacher in the second grade right now, and then Theodore Kruse, or Dr. Kruse, he just got his PhD, was a recent PhD student who did online learning and learning from distance and so forth. And me and Dr. D, we've obviously talked about the struggles as parents with online learning and younger children and everything. We talked a lot about that, I think, on the show, Dr. D.
Yeah.
And, from the perspective of a parent, I've complained a lot, and I will definitely say that to both of you guys. Tad's also Theodore, or Tad, which we like to call him here in Kuwait, who's been here for 15 years or however long. Excuse me, everybody. I'm more than comfortable in this podcast laying on a bed, as they each have a chair and I don't. So,
But you've got the best best chair in the house,
I know, but
I want to be in my bed doing this.
But now I'm not comfortable. I'm kind of leaning over here. Feels like I'm on a porn set or something, to be honest with you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Tad's like, my reputation's gone to shit already. All right. But no, in all seriousness, I got to get comfortable here, guys. Sorry. In all seriousness, thanks for coming on, guys. And yeah,
because we need a space where we can complain. Today, I want to be a parent, not Dr. D, please. Because actually this virtual, can I call it shit or no? Virtual thing.
I don't think I don't know if that's fair. Dr. D.
It's not fair. Of course, this is the only thing we could do. I'm doing it, but still, it's stress. I think it's a lot of stress, and we need to talk about the stress as parents, but also as, educators. I think we need to do a lot of preparation, to be honest, mentally.
And Summer, that's why you're here. I think me and Dr. D have bashed on it so much. It's good to hear the other perspective, the other side of the story, and, the stuff that you guys, the teachers, have to put up with and how hard it is for you guys. And just, so people can put themselves in your shoes for once.
Well, being as an online teacher, this is my 12th year as a teacher, as an online learning right now, it has its ups and it has its downs. In the beginning, it was stressful, yes, and scary, but to be honest, right now, it's actually going good. And it also all depends on the platform that the kids are using.
True.
And it's based as well as a school. Even if you're in school, it doesn't matter. The admin can be great or the admin can be bad. It also depends on the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher who, that's how, if you have, and especially now with online, it's new to everyone. It's new to teachers, it's new to parents, it's new to kids, it's new to admin. So it takes patience.
And I just want to add something that Dr. D said, and I appreciate you wearing your parent hat today. And I think you'll probably go back and forth, as a faculty member and as a parent, but circumstances of not just what COVID-19 has presented, but the anxiety for an online learning environment that it creates for parents, that it creates for the students, definitely for the teachers. People have adjusted in different realms. This whole concept of Zoom bombing and people, being was it Zoom exhaustion or, from these online calls, spending so much time in front of screens, whether it's for leisure, whether it's for meetings, whatever else. So I think there's a lot of dynamics that have gone into the educational setting that we haven't had to deal with before, or at least most people have not, and definitely not children, because, going from a face-to-face to a virtual realm.
The thing is that the transition happened so quickly, right? Obviously now, for the fall, we are much more prepared. So I have to give credit to our IT department and preparing us. Also with my daughter's school, actually, I was just telling her yesterday, wow, I'm very impressed because the teacher or the platform that they're using, they gave us a presentation. You can click on the presentation. It takes you to this website. Is very, very organized. So obviously they've worked all summer. And I'm sure, Summer, you can tell us that you probably guys were preparing since we couldn't travel. I could see that they've done a lot of work. But for me as a parent, it's so hard for me to realize, maybe because I'm an anxious person. So I was like, okay, how do I know if you're submitting something? How do I know? And plus my guilt because I'm working all the time and she's in the other room. And so I don't know, is she submitting? Is she not submitting? Is she understanding? So that's where my anxiety really comes from, actually. Besides that, my students also give me anxiety.
You're right. Now we're more prepared than back in April in the spring. In the spring, it was just let's just put something together and get this year over with. But now, to be honest, people have worked, teachers, admin have worked a lot during the summer. It was nonstop working. And as teachers, they trained us. We had a lot of online training before school started. And also we had a lot of training for parents as well. So with the lower grade, our school actually had for middle school all the way to high school, they could not attend their first day, the kids, unless they did their online training.
That's amazing. Wow, good.
So yeah, they were able to log in. So that wasn't with me. I do second grade. So it was just from 6 and on. But I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect. It's all new. It's a challenge. And to be honest, I would tell friends I've never worked as hard as a teacher in my life. So
that is so true. Yeah. Oh my God, that is so true.
The prep time is ridiculous. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
It's extra than when you're in class.
Very true.
Yes. So it's a whole different world. And I think this is the way that things are going to be going for a while.
I appreciate you saying that.
I want to throw the ball over to Tad with a quick question. I'll give you kudos for that, Summer. And I think that's a perspective I haven't looked at. But Dr. Kruse, yeah, I'm going to call you Dr. Kruse. It's just for the listeners, I've been friends with Tad for almost 15 years now. He was my boss, my teacher, my mentor. He gave me a horrible review working for him.
That's true.
Which I appreciate very much.
Well deserved.
But you've also worked in education for a long time now. A lot of your degree was in education. You've served on boards. You've done a lot. How prepared were we for this? I mean, in retrospect, and from your understanding of all this, how prepared was the school system for something like this? And do you think it's going to jolt us into high gear for the next pandemic if it comes along in 5 or 6 or 10 years?
That's a super complex question. I think there's actually 10 questions in one there, but it's a very pivotal one because...
It's all right. I'm a complex person.
I understand that. But no, I mean, first off, I think that there was no way for a lot of institutions to be prepared, especially in parts of the world like in the Middle East where distance learning, online education has been something that's been frowned upon for credentialing and for validation reasons. But a lot of other organizations that already had some capacity for that were well prepared because they had Zoom already in place. They were using Zoom. My doctoral program that I recently finished is an example that it was designed to be a hybrid program. So when things shifted to Zoom, we were already using Zoom. We were having 4 hours of class a week, using Zoom, using different LMSs. So for us, there was no transition. But for a lot of the students on campus that were taking other types of courses in different capacities, it was a huge shift. I think one thing that a lot of institutions have done a good job with this is, and Summer mentioned it as well, and so did Dr. Dinka, that schools have done a lot in the last 6 months to prepare for the fall. In the spring, there was no way to prepare for this. Nobody ever really expected something like this to happen, not on the scale that it's happened. So they've really pivoted very quickly to look at the systems. I think IT companies and Microsoft Teams, and I mean, there's plenty of software packages out there have all pivoted to make sure that they adjusted and were able to handle the load. I mean, Zoom's a great example. I think it was something like their membership increased by 4 million, 5 million people just in the month of March alone. So, so having the infrastructure and the technical pieces to build that is important. But I've been working on professional boards and associations for years. So we've been doing virtual calls on a variety of different platforms. And so I think for some people it was easier than others. But for parents, I think, who quite often haven't had to work in this virtual realm, it's been a huge learning curve. And it's created a lot of anxiety because now, as some were saying, that the students are required to learn these systems. The teachers are learning these systems. They're all kind of learning together. And so to have a mindset of understanding that we're all in this together, that we're all trying to do the best for the students, I think is the most important. But long term, I think the key is that we are going to be looking at more hybrid type of educational settings. Think about even professional learning, adult learning, certification programs, things that conferences. A lot of the boards I've talked to said they're not planning on doing any face-to-face conferences for at least 12 to 16 months. So what does that mean for other industries? And how then do you have an experience that people would normally travel thousands of miles to go experience every 3 or 4 days? How do you replicate that, virtually? And we've organized some of those. I've been involved in some of those already in the last 6 months. And the expectation is now higher because, as Dr. Dinka said, education, schools have had a chance to prepare. Well, professional education and other realms of education now will have more time to prepare and look at those technical pieces. So I don't think that looking to the future, I think that we are looking at a major pivot in the way that education and training is delivered because of cost effectiveness, because of other components of how this bridges time and distance. But it also creates a lot of challenges, like both Dr. Dinka and Sommer mentioned. The prep of teachers, the learning, the access to technology, access to the internet, having devices. There's a lot of other pieces that go into this that people quite often overlook, that in large parts of the world or in certain parts of society that they just don't have that access and that privilege. So there's a lot of dynamics there.
I think, like you said, it's like students, in the US, the universities, a lot of them have online classes. So it's not, do you remember when we had Dr. Murad on when we were talking about economical issues at that time?
Yep.
I mean, actually, when he moved to Georgia State, he had said that they were already moving to online teaching. So they were more prepared. And there's a lot of universities were more prepared versus us on this part of the world. They don't really believe in online degrees and they don't believe in online classes. And definitely, like the Ministry of Education never gave credit to any online classes. I mean, within certain percentage, I think that's the rule. But I think this is allowing us to be a lot more flexible and be able to give opportunities for our students that even when they travel abroad, we can give them classes, we can get classes from students abroad. So I think for a university, it's not a problem, but it's more of a problem for parents and kids that are in regular schools, right? Because these kids never learned. And now, they have a socialization, having any socializing with their friends, and they're missing on the opportunity to use the exercises and do things that are like in PE classes or art classes. And then as a parent for myself, like I'm okay with teaching it now online. I've been prepared now. It took me 6 months. I know how to use Zoom. My students are okay. In a university level, unless my students don't have internet access, I don't really have any problems. And sometimes I even like it that I don't have to travel. I have to sit in my car. I can do it out of the house. But it's like for my daughter, I feel like there are students that don't have, internet access, or maybe it's the parents. Like, what can we do to prepare parents? Sommer, you're a teacher. I mean, what do you do to prepare parents to not be as anxious, to still have the ability to connect to their kids? What can I do as a parent not to be anxious? I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, to be honest. I mean, it just takes time. With I've experienced, I have a lot of parents that are sitting there with their kids. You can't see them, of course.
Should I sit with my kid? I mean, do you think I should?
Grade level.
I work. There's no way I'm going to sit next to her. She's in 5th grade.
No, 5th grade, they should depend on themselves. The first maybe week or two just to help her learn the platform, learn, the basics. But then, you can let her go. I'm teaching 2nd grade. They're still 7-year-olds.
But what about parents that work?
Yeah, so that's closer to DJ, and I was going to ask you about that now.
Yeah.
And Dr. D, you brought up a really important...
But we're working. We can't. Mahdi, remember, there are parents that are working. They're not going to be able to
No,
sit.
that's true. No,
Yeah.
that's true. But I want to go back to the socialization because I think that's a key aspect for 6 and 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's something that I can see with DJ that he's really lacking. And look, I'm not a penny pincher. I just want to get that out there. Like financially.
You're not a penny pincher?
No, I'm not a
that
penny
what you
pincher.
said?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not a penny pincher or a Phil's pincher or whatever. But when they say to me, "Oh, you're going to get 25% off," I'm like, "Yeah, but he's missing out on the most important piece of education, and that is, the socialization in school,
The school activities, yes.
the activities, mingling with other kids."
Yeah.
I think Tad, part of your thesis was on diversity, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'll throw it at Sommer, and then you could chime in a little bit. But how are we going to do that as parents? Even play dates.
I know it's hard. Even play dates, it's hard because some parents don't want kids to interact with other kids still,
I know, but we're really robbing them from the guild.
Yes, it's hard.
I feel so bad.
You're right. I mean, they're missing out on a lot, but there's nothing really you can do. We're having, for example, we have Literature Week, Reading Week, and I'm sure all the schools do that. So we're actually doing ours online in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're going to like have the kids dress up as their characters and, every day have an event for them online. I mean, that's all we can do is try to do our best.
But DJ's not taking it, though. He's not getting into it. He's not making friends. He's not interacting with the kids online. Like, he's like, whatever. It's like, I'd rather be, it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care for this person that I can't physically touch. So
yeah, it's hard. That age is hard. Yeah, because they have to be face to face for them to play, during recess, during lunch. It's,
I asked him, who's in your class? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I was like, you don't remember any of their names? He's like, oh, yeah, this person. I was like, what are they like? He's like, I don't know, Dad. He's like, I just sit there because I have to.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he says to me. He's 6. And I can imagine for Larsa, for instance, Dr. D, it's probably easy for her because they can still, send text messages or whatever. So that interaction's there. But
that's what I'm saying,
at that age group.
Okay, I have to admit, to be honest, it is. I mean, she's interacting and she's talking. But let me tell you, I've been making play dates. I'm sorry. I cannot have her be here the whole time on screen and not be able to play. And her brother is in boarding now in the US. So I feel like, she's missing out. He was her best friend, even though he's 5 years older than her and she's 10. But I feel like I cannot just do that to her. I could see how lonely she's becoming.
Yeah.
I'm feeling lonely and I'm sitting in this damn office for like 10 hours, either teaching or I'm online with my patients. So I feel like, I know some parents are not comfortable with it. We live in a complex, so a lot of these kids don't go anywhere. So I feel comfortable. And a lot of parents here, we've decided to do that. But I feel like it's not, we either find a way of how virtually can we engage them, because we're going to have to find a way because we're going to have other pandemics later on in life, or we have to modify and have play dates. I think we need to do something, to be honest. I don't want to rob them.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a big part of what, and I felt very bad for young adults, anybody, but in particular young adults who reached a pivotal point over the last 6 months, people graduating from high school, for instance, or people that were reaching a point, like my nephew plays Little League Baseball, and so he lost his last season of being able to play on the small baseball field. And he was very good. So he lost opportunities to have experiences that would be very memorable for him. Those are just some small examples. But in the U.S., for instance, speaking of my niece and nephew, they've been going back to face-to-face schooling, and they had an outbreak at their institution and whatnot, and they go to a private school. So, they do have a lot of privilege and access to things. But the conversation I've had with my family there is finding that point that you just brought up, Dr. Dink, of, what, these kids need to socialize, they need to connect. And one of my concerns is, even if, going back to what you said, Mahdi, about DJ and whatnot, even if, and especially for younger kids, like what Sommer's teaching, being on a screen and seeing behaviors and actions from like the chest up doesn't give them the full understanding of micro behaviors. There's body language, sometimes, the voice inflections and whatnot, all those things and how we communicate as human beings. I don't think that all that translates, through a screen. So especially when kids are younger and you're talking about that social development piece and the social interactions, for me, that's a concern, both short-term and long-term. So I think a lot of people are saying, wait, we're trying to isolate. I know that there's been some discussions in some parts of the world about sort of these miniature bubbles where there's like home teaching happening at like 4 families. And so, or 4 families like letting their kids all socialize together. So at least they're minimizing the potential risk and so forth. But I take both your points that, using a screen, a device as a way to socially connect is not enough, especially at certain stages.
It's true, actually. It's true. And, some of my patients have said that. So I have few hours that I do face-to-face at the clinic. So we don't do a lot of hours, but then the rest of them are online. And, I've had several people, when I can't find them appointments face-to-face because it's booked for a month, I say, well, why don't you just try online? You don't want to not go and have treatment, and miss out on your therapy because you want to wait for me for face-to-face. And, a lot of them say, no, doc, I like seeing you. I like the interaction we have. You get to see my body language. I mean, of course, there's nothing better than face-to-face, no matter what, if it's socialization or whatever. But it doesn't really mean that I wouldn't be able to help them.
And online counseling has been around for at least 10 years. I mean, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's not a new way to shift, whereas other aspects of work have shifted to a new virtual. So that's established, and that's a great example of how people are still not comfortable, or they feel like they're not getting the full experience that they would, by being face-to-face.
Yeah, I could do it the best I can.
There was a virtual birthday party for a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like people are trying to be creative.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
She ordered, you can make your own cupcakes at home in the microwave, and every kid she sent to their house, and every kid.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
cute.
and then they played games online. So I guess people are just coming up with ideas.
If I told my kid, oh, DJ, there's going to be a virtual party online and there's games, he'll be like, no, I want to play Super Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my kid will be like, I don't want to do this. Look, I get Arabic and I get religion. Okay. My kid was doing like a Def Leppard dance in religion class. All right. And in Arabic, the teacher was like, when harf dal? He was like, da, 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 da. And she's like, yes, dalaj. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, this is so much harder than I thought because
Yeah.
like Bayan, from what I heard is, they gave parents these workbooks or these work packets. And some of the schools did that. For us, I'm looking at it, I'm like,
That's nice.
yeah, right? And I'm looking at it, and when DJ's like, Daddy, where's my worksheet? And I'm trying to teach him independence. I'm like, DJ, find it. Like go through your folder yourself, try and find it yourself. And it does turn into him throwing the papers up in the air and, me trying to step in. But even me as his dad, I'm like, where the hell's the worksheet? Why don't I have a book? What's going on here? And then I'm like, dude, I don't know where the worksheet is. You don't know where it is. Let's just figure this out together and, move along and we'll trace on the side. And that's what pisses me off. Like, if you're going to do it, have things put in place properly, or at least adapt to it as the semester goes on by ensuring that the children have all the right workbooks. For Christ's sakes, I had to buy a big ass printer with a laminating machine and everything. No, but to do all the printing, I'm not only paying 75% of the full tuition, which I shouldn't be paying because he's not getting that socialization. I think that accounts for 50% of the tuition, not 25%, just to put that out there.
So we're going to economics now.
We're going to economics. No.
Come on. The teachers are working very hard.
I know they're working hard, and I get that.
But you have to pay for the teacher's salary.
But the school system let go of a lot of teachers' assistants. They let go of a lot of admin during this time. The school systems, I think, let the employment field in education down, in my opinion. And I think there are a lot of schools that did that. They got rid of teachers' assistants. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sommer, Dr.D, Tad, but they got rid of...
Furloughed a lot.
Yeah, and that's shitty. You're still taking the same amount of money from me, but you're furloughing all of the other essential staff that probably need that money to put their kids in school. That's shitty. Where is your social responsibility? Especially in Kuwait, it's a small-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. We know how much they're bringing in. We know what their costs are.
You raised several, delicate, but also I think important points. And I'll give some examples from...
Just don't get deported, man. I could get away with this shit. So can you, Sommer.
That's true, you can. So I did my doctorate at the University of Southern California, and they announced back in, I think, April or May, their president took a 25% pay cut for the year. And most of their executive staff took a 10% pay cut.
Yeah, you tell that to one of the executives in Kuwait, he'll laugh. He'll say, no, you fire. Don't touch my salary. Dude, they do that all the time here. It's just like during the financial crisis.
No,
What's her
that's
name?
what I don't
that
understand.
big-wig Kuwaiti lady that was that owned the company. She was like the richest Kuwaiti woman. Oh, what was her name in 2008, 2009?
What?
She was getting paid like 15,000 KD a month, and she fired like 75% of her staff, and she wasn't paying them. And it was like, dude, how are you getting paid? And no one's getting paid right now. People don't do that.
And the thing is that why are the administration making that much money? I understand that they're doing the admin work, but the teachers really, now, not that I'm saying my administration is not working hard, a lot of them are, but they don't understand how hard it is for us to teach virtual. I was told by somebody that there's a possibility we would get a cut. Thank God I work at an institution that did not believe in that, but they wanted to cut the salaries of teachers, professors, whatever. Some other schools have suggested it. And I was thinking, but they don't understand. It's not because I'm sitting at home. I'm not working hard. Actually, I have to grade everything online, which before I graded them on a piece of paper.
You work double
so
now.
I could be watching TV and doing it or having coffee at a Starbucks. Everything has to be online. I have to be able to get sophisticated using online technology. I had to learn all this Moodle. And our students, they are not used to it. It's not like the Americans where a lot of schools already did this, as I said before. So I had to prepare my students how to use it. Our homework, our exams, we can't even give exams. So we have to modify a lot of things for our student. You cannot believe we created WhatsApp group, which I never do face to face, but now I have to. These students were like texting me at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, things we've already talked about it in class. And I wasn't getting upset because I know that they're anxious. There is a lot of hand holding, seriously, because we're not used to this. And to say to me that, oh no, teachers should get deduction or, teachers in regular schools were getting deducted. And I felt really bad. Why should we cut the teacher? They work hard.
Yeah, the workload online is actually double or triple
Yes.
to be honest, in person.
It's for everybody because IT departments have been working, tremendously over the months to prepare, all of these things for the fall.
Yeah.
To build the infrastructures, to onboard the new system. So administrators are working hard too. And as somebody who's been involved in administration for many, many years, I think that, and this goes back to sort of what Mahdi's frustration is about having to buy a printer and pay money here and there. But first off, I think that as a society, as a global society, we've got to look at the big picture that we're still in this transitionary phase of how things are operating and so forth, and how education is adapting. But as various people mentioned, people have been furloughed, people have lost their jobs. I think that the better institutions out there are cutting back in ways to say, hey, we don't want to fire people or we don't want to furlough people. What can we do to make this sustainable for at least another semester? Or how can we get through this year? Education in this part of the world is proprietary. It is for profit for the most part. It is elsewhere in the world as well. So I think that's where maybe it gets a little bit more difficult for parents or for customers, clients to say, well, wait, why am I paying X amount? But like I said, the flip side, and Dr. Dink, you said, that there are parents out there that need that income, that need that job so they can pay for their own kids and they can provide for their own families.
Yes.
Long term,
Yes.
or even just looking to like this time next year. This goes back to what you were saying, Mahdi, about having papers for your son and you being able to, I think the organizational piece of this and how institutions adjust to say, how is it that our faculty are able to teach online and how can we train them? How can we provide resources for them better? How can we as an administration organize ourselves to redirect funds? Because, let's be honest, at the university level and at the K-12 level, a lot of monies are gone into certain aspects of the social, the face-to-face food, events, a lot of things like that support those supplemental aspects of education that now are no longer there. So how can you reroute those funds into other things so therefore you can be as cost-effective and make it work? And I think that a lot of educational institutions are still figuring some of that out, along with loss of potential income of revenue, in some respects. But I think really going back to the better schools this time next year are going to be the ones that you're going to have so much of an orientation as a parent, well before, the fall rolls around. You're going to understand the systems. They're going to make everything mapped out. You're going to have a 24-hour helpline, so to speak, which some schools I think have made available for technical support anyway, that you're going to be able to say, okay, wait, if I have a question, I kind of know I already have the resource in hand. So by the time you and your child sit down, or your child sits down, or in Dr. Ing's case, she's in one room and, the child's, in the other room, that you're not going to worry about these flare-ups. Technical issues will for sure happen. Internet's going to go down, computers or systems are going to crash. Those things are going to happen. But people are going to feel like they're in a much more standardized and structured state, knowing where they're coming from and where they're going. I think that's where we're kind of caught in this. We're not sure why or when or what.
But is education, and Dr. D, you can chime in on this too. Is education best suited for that type of a way in very structured, very sit down in your place? And let's face it, the Scandinavian countries, a lot of them have practiced education in a different way, especially with the younger kids where recess is more, they're outside. I think it's in Norway where they go out every 45 minutes. They have to go outside for like a 15-minute recess. Their education model has been proven over the years to work. Are we just shifting from bad to worse at this point in terms of kids and, sensory deprivation, so to speak? It's just getting worse. Where's the sensory play? Where's the touching dirt? Where's the playing outside? Where's the moving around? As humans, we've grown to know, especially in the fitness industry, that movement is king. And we're teaching kids from such a young age now, not even to move around the classroom, but to sit in a chair and look at a screen where, 2 years ago, there was all that research popping out about kids and screen time and the blue light and disrupting sleep and, is it bad for their eyesight? Is it bad for their brain? And all this crazy research that came out.
Is it bad for our eyesight and our brains?
100%.
No, it's
100%.
bad. You're right. It's bad.
Yeah, I want DJ playing in the mud. I want my kid out there. And if he's not out there playing in the mud, he will be out there with me. That's because I'm an aware parent.
But I agree with that. But I also feel like right now, with virtual is not all that bad. Then you're just going to have to provide DJ with that opportunity.
That's what I'm doing. But virtually, Dr. D, and here's my other part of the question. I can get better education outside of Kuwait and outside of the Kuwaiti school system by schools that have been doing this for years. I think we can all agree on that. There have been schools, online schools, and at-home-based programs that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Homeschooling that have the roadmap in perfect place, better than most of these schools. But I'm pigeonholed Kuwait by the Ministry of Education saying, no, you can't do that. You have to do, a school here in Kuwait, based in Kuwait. That sucks.
How did homeschooling work?
Homeschooling is not an actual school. It's a program.
It's a curriculum.
Yeah.
And a program, yeah.
So, it's a curriculum. It's a program. It's not from an actual school. Even in the States right now, like where my niece is at and everything, their district, they had to do a new platform. It's everything new to them as well. Like the curriculum is new. And then in another state where I have family there. Their curriculum, they didn't even know what they're doing. They had to create everything new during the summer. So homeschooling is just a program. It's a curriculum. It's not an actual school.
No, but what I mean is that homeschooling with school, it's a curriculum where parents decide that they don't want their kids to be in school.
Yeah, but that's basically what I'm doing right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you think DJ's getting anything out of it? We're doing more homeschooling.
Exactly.
But Mahdi, it's a choice. You don't have a choice now.
There are parents that believe in homeschooling. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So this virtual is not any different from homeschooling. How did they manage those parents that didn't want their kids to be in school? How did homeschool work?
For this age group, it is homeschooling. For this age
No,
group, it's so difficult.
No.
It's so difficult.
No. What I'm saying, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying homeschooling has been in existence for a long time where parents have chosen to homeschool their kids because they didn't want them to immerse with the mainstream students. They chose to teach their kids at school, and it worked for them. Why is it not working for us? And it worked for those parents that chose homeschooling. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Because now parents are like thinking that, like Mahdi right now, like they're forcing you. He's not his choice.
That's part of it.
Yeah, it's true.
They are forcing me. They said bluntly, if you take your kid out of school, we can't guarantee a spot. And that has been said by every school in Kuwait, not just DJs, but every school has said that.
Yeah, of course, because there's a wait list in all the schools.
But that's BS. Like, he should still have a spot. I should be able to go to a better school in the United States or Europe.
But that's the program. But right now, it's no one's fault because this online, it's not like everybody wants this. It just happened. It wasn't planned.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying is that parents that chose homeschooling, because I had a friend that her parents were homeschooling her.
That's their choice, yeah.
I mean, I have a friend and she was homeschooling her kids, actually, which I'm totally against it. That was before COVID-19, right? I used to say to her, I don't understand. Why would you pick homeschooling? Like, and then my son, he knows her and he's like, Mom, Auntie, she does this. Why can't you do homeschooling for us? This was before COVID, right? 2 or 3 years ago, I think. And I said, because I totally disagree with the idea of you sitting here doing all your homework. And that's exactly what our kids, but they were very independent. They did everything online. They submitted everything, just like what we're doing now. And now I'm thinking about it. Well, she did it. And she said to me, it doesn't matter. The interpersonal or like the socialization that they need, her kids were high school, that they need, we can give to them other places. At least I pick what students and what friends they can have. I don't know, a little bit too controlling.
That's not true, though. And I think Tad can agree with me on this. We've coached several kids.
Homeschoolers?
That have been homeschooled.
That's true.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, and they were different.
They're different.
Like, their interactions.
I don't agree with you.
No, there were a lot of them. Their interactions were different, dude.
Well, no, let me explain why I disagree with you.
Karate Kid, man.
They're
Karate
different.
Kid.
Cry kid.
No, they mingled well.
Did you just say cry kid?
Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Like Karate Kid.
Karate.
They didn't know how to socialize.
They socialized, but their socialization was different.
Well, but here's my point. Let me go back first to what Dr. Dinko was mentioning about the homeschooling versus not. And the first off, it goes back to what Sommer said is that there's no choice now. Okay, for starters, high school students that were being homeschooled. Not only is it a curriculum and is it a program, but the difference is that the parents are the one in the house that are basically serving as the teachers.
Oh, yeah. And they're certified, right?
They may not be certified, but the
certified.
program
Yeah,
is the curriculum. They're getting all of that.
Yeah.
And they're submitting it, whatnot.
That's right.
I actually have one of my cousins, they've homeschooled. I think they have 6 children now. The oldest is now college age. So I've talked to them for years about it as an educator and kind of the pros and cons. And the key is, and here's where I think the circumstances are different, is that the socialization piece, they didn't keep their kids out of school because they were afraid of the school environment, is because they, as a family, really wanted to guarantee a certain level of education that they felt that they could do, as good as, if not better than up to a certain level. And then that just continued on up. But they were very intentional. The kids were very involved in sports activities and they were a youth group. They had 4 or 5 things, throughout. So they had their group of friends from those things. In some communities, they even have like kids that will socialize as a homeschool, side group.
That's right.
But the difference here is that we don't have that option. As you were saying before, Dr. Inc, about play dates or whatever, we don't have the option to say, well, hey, our kid's going to be involved in this activity anyway, because the idea is we have to social distance, or the social distancing piece, changes that. I think there's pros and cons to homeschooling, and you're right, Mahdi. A lot of the ones that we've coached and worked with over the years had their socialization issues.
And I think you're right. I think
they had their quirks to them. They were great kids. I loved them to death, every one of them, especially Karate Kid and his brother. They were awesome. I mean, Kyle won the game for us and the championship. And
there may have been a correlation, but there wasn't a causation here. So.
But yeah, I mean, no. But then there were a couple of other kids. Didn't Michael?
Causation.
Wasn't Michael homeschooled? Michael and his brother.
Michael was.
Michael was. Yeah, he was homeschooled. His brother too, right?
No, Mark was not.
Oh no, it was the Christian kid. It was the Christian
Yes,
kid.
the brothers, yes, the brothers,
the
yes.
brothers.
Oh, jeez. Those Christians.
And then there was the dude from Texaco.
And most of these were Americans.
Those Americans.
The guy from Texaco,
Yes.
he was an engineer, and his son was he was a diabetic. I remember that because
And his son is now graduated Ivy. I'm not quite sure where he's at now, but his son was very intelligent.
right, dude, and he was homeschooled.
And he was homeschooled, yes.
He was a little different. I mean, he didn't mingle very well. I mean, he was very to himself, but he was a good kid.
Yeah.
He was a very smart, intelligent kid, probably following a system that was put in place for, at least 2 or 3 decades, and that was proven. And look at him. He went Ivy League, dude.
Yeah.
Like, seriously?
Well, just a small bit of perspective is the Open University concept, not Arab Open.
Arab Open sucks. What? Sorry.
Open University, Arab Open is built off Open University, which was built in Britain, I think, back in like the 60s or 70s, and which was back when they would mail you something like a VHS tape, or they'd mail you like books or whatever. Like, so the distance learning concept is nothing new. It's just evolved, and now we're in this face to face, looking at each other on the screen. So the concept of that has been around in a variety of ways. And the homeschooling thing, if you really want to go back to it, we're talking centuries of going back to children being in farms and villages and whatnot. So the concept of teaching is just changed in the way that we think that we have to package it. We have to present things through a certain method to prepare students for life, careers, jobs. I read an article yesterday that actually talked about maybe that's not what we should be doing, but that's a separate issue.
And I think what you're saying is true, because homeschooling, the mother or the father choose, and then they become certified. So that means when they're homeschooling their kids, they're the teachers. So it kills me when someone comes to me and says, well, Juliet, you're already a professor, so you must know how to teach, so you can help your daughter. At least you're an educator and I'm not. No, I haven't done the math. I haven't done that damn science. I haven't done any of this stuff. I don't remember it. No, it's just because I'm an educator does not make me fit to be able to help my child. And I feel like it's a big responsibility on parents that are, but not to forget, we haven't touched on this and maybe we should do it quickly, but the idea is that, I'm a career woman. I work 2 jobs and I don't have time to be able to monitor and sit next to my child and see if she's doing this and doing that. And I think that's what stressed me. And I can only feel from my colleagues. Earlier, Ted and I, we were saying that I have colleagues that don't even have a babysitter or a nanny or whatever, where they made their shift in a way where one goes to work the same time their kid is in school. I mean, we have to grade papers. I have to work. I have a lot of responsibility to my job. And I cannot just be able to sit there and monitor her and see if she's doing this or doing that. And I feel sorry for parents who are career, both of the parents. They're if they're educators or professors or doctors or whatever they even go into a company, leaving your child and going to work and feeling okay that no one's supervising your kid. You don't know what they're doing. That's so stressful. Balancing both, it's so hard.
It is.
No, it's hard. Yeah, if you're a working mom and and a working father, both parents at work, it's hard to monitor the kids. The only thing is that, you would just have to trust in your daughter that she's doing what she's doing. And then,
and she is.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of responsibility placed on me as a parent, and parents who have to get up in the morning and go to work and they leave their kid, even if it's with the nanny, and having kids younger than my child, and they're not there to be able to supervise their kid or be there sitting next to them to make sure that they're maneuvering, smoothly in this virtual world. And to be honest, I have a lot of clients who are stressed because of this. It's stressful.
No, it is stressful. I teach afternoon. Our school gave parents option if they want morning or afternoon.
See, that's great.
So yeah, my classes are from 4 to 7.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
See, we don't have that option.
So yeah, we have that option. So if the parent, works and wants to be with the kid in the afternoon. So that made it easier on some parents, of course.
That's great.
So yeah.
We get that option too. Before we wrap up, all 3 of you are in education. I'm a parent who absolutely hates education and will not do it anymore in my life. And
yeah.
I think conventional...
Did you tell our guest? He was trying to teach Arabic to his kid. He was trying, and then what happened, Mahdi?
He drew some tattoos on his hand. What am I supposed to do?
Can you imagine?
And hey, it was like, DJ, what was your dad doing? He goes, Daddy was playing a game. And it was like, I'm teaching him independence.
And that was face-to-face teaching, right?
No, in all honesty, I don't want to negatively reinforce this. I don't want him to associate when I'm watching him during virtual school that I'm going to be a Nazi in there. Like, no, dude, you got to stay at the table. And, like, I don't want him to hate school. I don't want him to dislike this, because if he starts to dislike it now from virtual school, when he goes back to normal school and gets back into that normal setting again, what if he hates it because of this and because dad was too hard on him? I mean, come on, dad. We know, like, growing up as athletes, when your dad's hard on you in a sport, what does it do? Or what did it do to some of your friends? It negatively influenced them, and then they hated the sport. How many friends that I knew, they were great through their teens, and then their dad just pushed them that much harder, and they said they hated it. And it happens a lot with parents, especially if you do it with school. Oh my God, I hated school. My parents yelled at me. I was like, all right, you know what? Screw you. I'm not doing my homework. But at least now, I know that if he's not doing it now, later on, me and Haya actually, to give her credit, can sit down with him and work on the letters he's learning or whatever else. I mean, she's done an amazing job. I'm very grateful for my wife and the work she has put in with DJ. And that's why I think I should only be paying 50% of his tuition fee and not the 75%.
25% should be going to her.
I know. 25% should be going to her. Before we wrap up, I think I want to go around the horn on this question. And I think Dr. D will start with you, and then we'll move it to our guest, and then we'll end it with Dr. Kruse. So we'll go Dr. D, Sommer, me, and then Dr. Kruse can wrap it up. Do you guys see conventional learning withstanding over the next 10 to 15 years, or do you see it evolving into something more of what we see in the States with, guys that specialize in woodwork or specializing in
tradesmen?
Tradesmen, or, like a blue collar thing, or specializing in programming or computers, very specific schools or very specific educational models versus what we're seeing now? Dr. D, we'll start with you.
I don't think conventional will last very long, but I'm not sure if they would be like a specified kind of a school, not in the elementary, middle school, high school, but I think maybe universities. I don't know, to be honest. We're going to have to change the way we learn, definitely. And we have to change the way we teach. I would prefer that when we go back, at least in the way I think, there are some part of conventional is very important. I think we should start having a lot more traditional, non-traditional kind of, I mean, right now I teach, online. We have, I don't know, some of you guys have it. We have asymmetrical and symmetrical. Is that what they're called? So there's like lectures on and off, and I like it. The idea is that to be honest, it teaches my students how to be independent. So I lecture one day, I give them material to read, and then we meet the next time and we discuss it. So I kind of like that kind of a learning, but I don't know what you guys think. I definitely think conventional will change.
Same thing. I think with what she was saying, like, it's going to change. But yeah, with the synchronous and asynchronous, I mean, with the lower grades, we don't really have that. With the upper grades,
what synchronous? What is that? What's the synchronous?
Synchronous.
Yeah, you guys are throwing out like some big teacher jargon. All right, I'm not in the vet.
Yeah, synchronous and asynchronous. Yes,
like sympathetic and parasympathetic systems.
No,
all right, huh? I know some. I know that. You guys don't know that one.
Not parasympathetic. That's when you're sleeping.
Hey, very good, Dr. D. Very good.
So it keeps us alive.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Sommer, sorry, you were saying.
What was I saying? Now you threw me off.
The synchronous
and asynchronous.
the synchronous and asynchronous.
And conventional learning.
Yeah. Tad remembers that one.
Well, yeah, it's going to change. I'm sure it's going to change. I mean, the whole learning aspect is going to change. And to be honest, we don't even know how long we're going to be on this online learning. It might be for a year. It might be longer. It might be 6 months. Who knows? The thing that's like what Dr. Nico was saying, like, like the asynchronous, synchronous is, I'll introduce that to you, Mahdi. Asynchronous means like...
I have no idea.
Yes, please educate him.
I know what synchronized swimming is. That's about it, but...
When their kids are offline, they do work on their own.
Okay, so you gave offline a fancy name now? Like the education system had to give offline a fancy name. Okay.
Well, now a lot of people know these words because of online.
Whoa, hey, I don't know them. I'm dead.
No, now people know these words. Before, no one really,
Yeah,
and then synchronous is when you're teaching live.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
right.
So with the upper grades, a lot more easier.
I'm so putting that in the show notes just because I know there's like a lot of there are more people out there that have no clue what that is.
Yeah, no, that's important now. That's like the key words right now for online. Synchronous and asynchronous. There's like,
wow.
Yeah.
So it shows you how much I'm paying attention these days. But
it's an Arabic class anyway.
DJ's doing what? Asynchronous or synchronous?
Synchronous.
Probably all synchronous.
There you go. Perfect.
I passed that one.
You passed.
Mahdi, every day he's on. He doesn't have any time off where there's no teacher online.
No, it's every
He
day.
must have.
Every day, and he has homework.
Every day there's a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with me.
But the teachers, no.
That's how they get their 75%.
Wow, you guys don't have time off?
No, not for second grade. We teach Sunday to Thursday.
I guess makes sense. Second graders they have. So you don't record your lectures? Like I record my lectures and that will be asynchronized, or I give them lectures to read and we give them questions and we discuss it the next time, or I give them PowerPoint. Like I'm not on screen. Like I teach 3 days a week this semester. I will not be on screen 3 days a week.
Yeah, no, we're on screen from Sunday to Thursday.
Well, because second graders. But do you guys do it for high schoolers?
High schoolers, I think, yeah, they have some as well. Not everything.
I know my daughter doesn't have. Majority is
Majority is live. So that's what I'm saying.
I just want to intersect with this because I think, and Dr. Dink, you appreciate this, and I don't want to mess up your round robin thing here, Mahdi, but
Yeah, you're messing. My turn's next, dude.
but the issue here comes back to cognitive load, the way in which people are able to transfer information into the memory and their learning capacity.
Yeah.
So I say it because I think that when you're talking about synchronous and asynchronous, they're really designed, especially when you use them together, to build on that.
Yeah.
So when you build
That's right.
the learning scaffolding components to say that a teacher is doing this, in the classroom, and then they're going to watch a video later on, or vice versa,
Yep.
that it's really trying to instill from a learning strategy, and I'm not using the right, learning theory, component. Here's how we're delivering that. So
That's right. To be honest,
Yeah.
I'm amazed of how I'm teaching my student how to be independent. And a lot of our university students, even those that never thought they would be independent, they have become. I could say 20% of the students I've taught so far, which I taught a lot since April until now. And I think only 20%, they couldn't master the art of independence. But 80%, I was really amazed because everyone talks about our students and they're not like the American students and they're not used online. I was impressed.
that's why I brought this issue up, because I think it goes back to what her experience has been and what your experience has been. I think that we're going to see more intentionality into how these approaches are laid out. And if it's my turn, I don't know. You finished, Summer, with your...
No, and also what you were saying, like I have second graders that right now, like the first 2 weeks, parents like sat with them and they make sure now they're like by themselves. And to be honest, they like go in and out by themselves. They change their background screens and they do everything, they blur.
Yes.
And then I have like kids that are like, after break, like, Miss, the other girls are on the other chat. And I'm like, what chat are you talking? They're like, we're going to go get them. And they like hop around and go get them and bring them to the right chat.
Yeah.
That's great. See?
They're learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but it's getting there. It's going to take time. It's baby steps.
As an academic, I like it. But as a parent,
No,
I'm
it's
not
not my turn then. I'm serving
Ted,
it up for you, Tad.
Ted, sorry, Ted. It's
No,
your
no,
turn.
No. I'm serving up. I'm setting the stage for Tad. I'm setting the stage up for Tad, okay? You know how I like to do this sometimes, Dr. D.
no.
I'm setting the stage up. All right. So, look, I agree with both of you. Conventional learning will definitely change, and I think it has to change. If we don't, we are definitely all doomed. And I think the research that has come out over the years with movement and what it means for the brain, what it means for the body, has changed the way we've sculpted ourselves now and changed the way that we think about our future later on. Have you seen the movie WALL-E? WALL-E with the robot?
Yeah, the robot.
Yeah.
And then he goes into space and all the humans are on these, like, they're all fat blobs and whatever.
Obese.
Yeah, obese. They don't think for themselves. They don't do it. That's going to be us if we don't do something. And we were talking about this earlier where I looked at Tad and I said, dude, you know how to climb a rope? He said, yeah. And my dad was like, yeah, I could climb a rope too. He's like 65, but, and he probably couldn't do it. But the point is I remember rope climbing when I was in first grade, the ropes with the knots. And we were climbing a good at least 12 feet, or maybe it felt like 12 feet then, but it was pretty high up there. Whereas kids aren't doing that. I try to make it a point every morning to take DJ out for a walk, show him the animals that are out there. We started going through the plants now because I think these are skills he's going to need later on because they're so forgotten in our day-to-day lives with the screen time, the this, the that, the schooling. And Tad, when we were growing up in the States, you could play baseball and be an A student and everything. Here, you can't be an A student and play sports. For some reason, parents stop their kids from playing a sport during exam time, which I think is wrong, and kids need to learn how to manage their time. And the reason why I'm tying this all in is because I think that if we don't change conventional education, and if kids aren't given that freedom of choice and learning time management later on in life, we're all screwed because they won't know how to specialize in one thing and then do that thing that they love to do and, produce something of high quality that will transcend throughout the community. That's just my take on it.
But to be fair, Mahdi, that was before online. Kids didn't do all that stuff you're talking about.
But this is just going to make it worse.
Yeah, but before that, kids with their electronics took them away from doing all that other activities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's going to make it worse. And to be honest, even with me, now my sleeping pattern is jacked up because of the screen.
Yep.
I think that's why. Like, I cannot go to bed.
You need some CBD.
I need something.
I'll give you some CBD. I'll hook you up with CBD.
Seriously. No, it is because I stay on my laptop late.
That doesn't help.
Oh, CBD does. CBD with melatonin
Does not
definitely
help
helps. CBD
at
and
all.
melatonin stack. I'll give you the right stuff, all right?
Some
Don't worry.
don't listen to me. It doesn't work. I think you need to take a Xanax.
Oh, my
That's what I
Lord,
think.
Xanax. This coming from the psychologist,
There you
I
go.
know, right? Of course the psychologist
Look,
will go to Xanax.
I'm like Summer. No. I'm like Summer. You know, Summer, the max I used to sleep is 1 a.m. because I used to work a lot. And then when I come home, I'm exhausted. Since this quarantine thing happened, I have had such a hard time sleeping. Sometimes I'm up till 2:30 because you're right. I'm more on screen time. I'm reading all my news online since all this like entertainment in our politics in the US is happening.
Yes, of course.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. So by 2:30, I'm feeling wide awake. So our kids are like on screen all day. We are on screen all day. So it's going to affect our sleep pattern. It's true. Very true.
Yeah. No, it has. I've noticed a big difference.
Yeah.
So, Tad, you're up. But before that, Yusuf, just so you know, I don't support Joe Biden anymore because he was against liberating Kuwait in 1991. He voted against it. Yusuf's probably listening to the show. Sorry, guys. I had to get that out there. All right? And thank you, fella, for telling me that. So, Tad, the stage is set for you.
He's still a better choice than what we have now.
No, he didn't want to liberate Kuwait. He didn't want to liberate Kuwait. I don't like that guy.
That was like so many years ago. He's changed.
That was 30 years ago.
Yeah, but he was racist, man. And my mother said it. She said they don't change.
I don't know.
I kind of believe my mom on that one.
We could have a whole session just on that aspect of politics and diversity and whatnot. But two things I want to bring up that kind of came from parts of the conversation before that I think are important for us to keep in mind as we talk about the future of education. The first is privilege. And that's come up many times here. And privilege presents itself in different ways. But the fact that if people have the space to have an area at home, an office or whatever. I mean, for homeschooling, my cousin I mentioned, they had a separate room in their house that was the classroom, to create that environment. I say it because the environment, especially when we look at the different ages and we've talked about, second grade and middle school and even high school to some degree, but depending on the age of the student, is really heavily impacted by the environment that they need to learn or the way that they learn, their attention span. So there's a lot of things that go into that impact the learning opportunity for them and the socialization piece. So whether it's Mahdi making tattoos on his hand while DJ is learning Arabic, but if it's a confined space, then he may be, less distracted by whatever's across the room or whatnot. So I say that because the other thing too, I was reading an article recently, it was talking about the fact that modern education is designed to teach people the basic skills to get a job, not to teach people to love to learn and not to want to learn for the sake of learning and instilling the concept of lifelong learning. So I hope, and going back to what you mentioned before, Dr. Dink, about some of your students and how they've kind of been able to work more independently, one of my hopes with this pandemic, and kind of the way that we've had to shift is that one of the hopefully positive outcomes will be is that people will be more inclined to want to learn for the sake of learning. I finished my doctorate recently. I've actually continued to take some free online classes, not because I want to be in class again, but because I'm seeing that, there's opportunities for me to continue to learn as a human being, and especially in light of the current pandemic, and what things can I do to look at my happiness and how, my fitness levels, my, other skill sets to support, my career and my personal interests.
Everything happens for a reason. So I truly believe something we had to, some of these students were telling me that during the quarantine, they had to take extra classes or they had to learn how to cook, or some of them, their parents were stuck outside, so they had to become independent. Maybe we needed a change, cultural change.
Well, and that's why I bring it up, because when we talk about the future of education, I really think that organizations that are going to be successful, whether they be government, whether they be private, whatever parts of the world, that's kind of why I go back to the aspect of privilege, because, people that don't have access to technology, don't have access to the things to do these types of capacities, are going to find ways to work around it as best they can. So I think that we look at the future, that there is going to be some more of a hybrid, I think, learning technique out there or learning opportunities, going back to this aspect of asynchronous and synchronous, and being more intentional in applying learning theory to the way that we instruct. So whether it's face-to-face, whether it's in the classroom, and as both of you said, there's a lot more prep being done by teachers now to present things. And when I was doing some of my courses, via Zoom, the ones that I found that were the most rewarding and the ones that were the most succinct were the ones that you could tell the professor had done adequate prep here's what we're going to cover today. We'd already done the asynchronous components and whatnot. And when you look at a lot of these online, the MOOCs, massive online courses, the online free, most of those are designed for people to do independently, to do at their own pace. Quite often, some have, So I say because I think that that's the direction of when you go. Is conventional education going to go away? No. Plenty of research out there to show the need for the social development of young people to be in an environment, in a classroom environment. To be that interpersonal connection is huge, and I think that's where globally we all want that for ourselves, for our kids, for ourselves in the workplace. But I think that as educators, when we look at where education is going, I hope that one of the positives out of this whole horrible pandemic is that people are going to look at a way that we can shift how we teach and how we educate and our approach and our philosophy to education to instill lifelong learning, to instill a passion for learning, and to go about it in a way that might hit a broader audience.
And I also want to tell one more thing. I know my turn is done, but
your turn's
I want to
done,
make
Dr.
sure
D.
that parents...
You can't talk no more.
But hold on.
Dr. D, you can't talk no more.
I want to wait. I have to give a shout out to
messing.
the parents. I want to make sure that the parents understand, and who is listening to us, please don't be hard on yourself.
That's right.
Please take it easy. You're doing the best you can, and you have to work. You got to put food on the table, so don't worry about it. You're not going to be a perfect parent. So if you can't be, if you're like me, where I don't really know what's happening until Friday on the weekend when I can check her work, I've decided as of today, actually, I told myself, Juliet, you just cannot stress about this, what she's doing, what not doing. Even though she's doing everything, it's not really her fault. It's my issue. So I decided I'm not going to be hard on myself. I am doing the best I can as a parent and as a provider, and that's the only thing I can do. So I want to tell all the parents out there, you're doing a great job. Don't be hard on yourself.
True.
I would totally support that, because I think that one thing parents need to make sure that they're talking to their students, whether they're sitting with them or not sitting, just to understand what the experience is and what their, maybe what their challenges that the child's having going through the experience, whether it's the virtual, sitting in front of the screen or something else, if the students are, feeling, because there's still virtual bullying, there's still things going on in students' lives. But the bigger thing is to let people know that whatever they're feeling, they're not the only ones out there feeling that way. If they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're feeling like they're doing a horrible job, to ask questions, reach out to your student school, to the IT department, to teachers, to understand, what things are out there, because
Very true.
I think that's where a lot of us have that anxiety, because we just don't know, and nobody likes to look dumb or feel stupid. But just know that there's plenty of other people out there going through the same thing, and to be able to just reach out and ask for help and to understand the circumstances, that's going to be the best strategy for parents and for their kids.
Yeah, and just to have patience. I mean, it's like you're not alone.
Patience, support. Get some support from other parents. Yes.
Yep.
I talk to other parents and they feel the same way as me.
Yeah.
Get your kids outside. This coming from me is get your kids outside.
Very
Kids
true.
need to be outside, especially now the weather's getting a little bit better.
Yep.
Teach your kid how to forage for a jarbur. All right, the American audience won't know that. It's like a little mouse, right? Little desert mouse. Summer.
Desert
It's like a
mouse,
desert
yeah.
mouse. No, I say that because me and DJ, part of what we've been doing lately, and we've been going around looking at different animals and trying to find what's out in the desert, because we live, in a remote area in the middle of the desert. Like, there's really nothing around here. I take him to look at the camels and stuff. It's all fun. The dog we saw for the last 3 days is dead, apparently. Summer saw it. You guys saw it on the side of the road. So, shield your kids from that, but get your kids outside. I think that's important. Teach your kids a sport right now. I think that's one thing that I'm worried about, to be honest with you guys, is kids aren't getting PE. I mean, that is so bad at this age.
Yeah.
At 7, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dr. D, with Larsa, how important was that movement in school? Like the PE aspect, because some kids don't do it.
But you know what? She has PE. They do it virtual and she does some sit-ups and running, whatever. But I put her in activities like there's virtual. She does like virtual off ice because she's a skater. We do have a swimming pool. And she's doing kickboxing now.
Oh, that's cool.
But then the other thing is that, again, there are some parents that don't have the time, or they are not able to coordinate all these events. And maybe, just let your kid go downstairs of your apartment building and let them run, or take them for a walk. Like, remember when we had those 2 weeks of full quarantine?
Yep.
We walked.
Everybody in Kuwait walked.
I know. You haven't seen anyone walk since.
That's right. So
It was a great sense of community.
It really was. It definitely was.
Good or bad, you just saw people like, hey.
it was nice. I miss those days, to be honest. We were walking, everyone.
Yes. On the weekends, even if you take your kid out for an hour or half an hour walk, or
Yeah.
just to take them out a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to be structured, paid activities for people that can't afford it. Just do some walking or park your car. Like, I always park my car far wherever I am, and I tell my daughter we're walking. It's hot, mom. I don't care. Wear something comfortable.
Yep.
We walk in the malls, whatever it is that we can do. So I don't, I mean, unfortunately, I can pay for these classes, but there are parents that have lost their job. They're not going to be able to get, all these services for their kids. Even in the US, a lot of parents can't afford all these things, but you can afford to get them downstairs to ride their bike or walk the stairs or whatever.
Yeah.
Go to a nearby park. There's always something.
But not even that. Even if you have limited space, and this comes from baseball, and someone said, I don't have enough space. We live in an apartment. I was like, dude, there's a million different things that you could do. If you want to work on your arm, you could throw a piece of paper at the wall. You could do little things with a tennis ball.
That's right.
Like, you have to make the most of it. And as a dad, and I was telling Tad, I was like, yeah, DJ, I'm teaching him to play baseball. I'm getting him into it a little bit more. And now he's susceptible because I'm doing 10, 15 minutes at a time. And I'm not pressuring him. I'm making it fun. And for me, it's like getting him outside for 15, 20 minutes, doing something that involves hand-eye coordination. This shit's gold. And parents need to understand that, especially right now. That's my biggest fear with all this virtual stuff, is that we're just going to get a bunch of couch potatoes, kids that, don't want to move and don't want to do anything. And that's a scary thought.
That's when it comes down to the parents, try to be creative.
PE's a joke, by the way. No offense. PE, they asked DJ, what do you want to do? Burpee. What? So and he was like, Mom, I don't want to do PE here. I'll do my own version. And PE for him was...
Maybe you should see if he can lead PE for his class one day.
That's a good idea, dude. That's a really good idea.
I watched him doing pull-ups today. That was pretty impressive.
Right, dude? Yeah. He could do a full pull-up. He's 6 and he can do a full-blown pull-up. Yeah.
Yep.
And he deadlifted 25 pounds today.
Yeah, he did.
That was a 25-pound deadlift. I'm proud of my son.
It's more than I can do. That's good. No, I think you can create whatever. But at our school, there is a PE. There is PE, but I don't know how much they're doing technically. But I just do whatever I can.
Yeah, we don't have PE. They took PE out. So
yeah, because they want to cut costs. That's what it came down to, cut costs. Let's fire the PE teachers. Let's make more money.
No,
I'm sorry. No, I'm just joking. That's probably
because I don't know how much the kids are really getting PE virtually.
Yeah, DJ was like, "No, I'm not doing this." We weren't pressuring him to it. On that note, though, Sommer, Dr. Kruse, Dr. Dinka, this was a fun one, I have to say. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And for all the listeners, please don't forget to leave us a rating and review.
Good seeing you guys.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.